Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Carolina Weather Group. This is the July 13th edition of our little hangout that we do every Wednesday night. Hard to believe that we are halfway through July. It seems like it just started and halfway through it. So tonight we are joined by the Weather Junkies with us, and the Weather Junkies has their own podcast that they do on Thursday evening. So we're glad to kind of get them away a night before their show, as they would probably be preparing and stuff, and have them join us tonight for our little get together here on Wednesday nights. So we're happy to have Dakota and Tyler with us, and we'll let those guys introduce themselves here in just a little bit before we get started in the show. A couple of housekeeping things. A live broadcast, so if you want to reach out to us during this show, you can follow us on Twitter at Carolina WX Group. Shoot us a tweet, and we can get those comments or questions answered. You can also follow along on Facebook and our Google Plus pages. So we'll monitor those throughout the show, and if we're talking about something you want us to expand on it or have a topic for us to talk about tonight, please feel free to give those to us, and we'll get those put into the show. Also, I think all of our podcasts are up to date, so make sure that you go to your favorite podcast store, Apple iTunes, Android systems, and like that, and make sure
Google Play. Google Play Music now allows you to do
See,
podcasts.
I'm Apple, so I don't know anything else. So, but yeah, make sure you download all of those podcasts. They should be up to date. So, with that, we're going to turn it over to our panelists. It's kind of been a busy week here in the Carolinas and Virginia with round after round after round of strong to severe weather, and many damage reports coming out of the area over the past week. So I'm first going to start up with the man, the myth, the legend up in South Jersey, who is not feeling too well tonight. So I don't know how much he'll talk. But Peter, Plaidless Peter tonight, how are you, my friend? How's things going tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm just sweating to death because it's been so hot up here lately. We've been hot and humid and just nasty up here, and it's going to be nasty again the next few days. I'm under a excessive heat warning for tomorrow and Friday. Yeah, you know Mount Holly and those excessive heat warnings. But, yeah, it's going to be over 100 for the heat index tomorrow, so I can't wait. Just can't wait to sweat and get all disgusting. So, yeah, I've been sick. I've been sick since last week, so that's why I wasn't on the show last week. But I am getting better, so that's why I'm not talking as much tonight. So
we're glad you're better, and enjoy that heat warning, because we've not had one of those this year, James, have we here in the Carolinas?
No, but I think we've had the heat.
Yeah, we've had the heat, definitely. So how's things going in Charlotte
looking
tonight?
like me tomorrow. He'll be all sweaty with 100-degree temperatures outside, and that's normally my role, Peter.
How's things going tonight in the Queen City?
Not too bad, not too bad. I just stepped out a second ago and closed the door here in the office and checked in on the wife, and I couldn't find her, but the Netflix was paused. I suspect she's run out the door again to try to go catch a Pokemon. She's done it a couple times on me now. So I suspect that's where she is. But, yeah, Scotty, like you said, we had a couple rounds of some strong thunderstorms roll through, especially on Friday night, and then again on Monday now. Monday. Lots of people lost power here in the Charlotte area, brought down some trees. Good news, no serious injuries, but I know a lot of people were dealing with all this heat without the assistance of electricity and AC. But, I think it really helped to remind everyone that there is more to devastating weather than just tornadoes. Straight-line winds, strong thunderstorms can do a whole lot of damage, too, and I think this was a good reminder, if there is such a way to remind folks that severe thunderstorm warnings need to be taken seriously too.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of a segue. We will be doing a show on August the 3rd with Brad Panovich talking about the differences between straight-line damage and winds and tornadoes, and how severe thunderstorm warnings should be taken just as serious, especially here in the Carolinas, where we don't see many tornadoes. So those straight-line damage and winds can do a lot of damage. As you've seen in Boone, we shared a video on our page last week of an apartment complex that the roof had basically been blown off of a section of apartments. So I know Ricky Matthews, who is not on the show tonight, he's been doing a lot of double coverage there in the Bristol, Tennessee area, covering the storms and then the recovery from the storms. He captured a lot of drone footage up in the Watauga Lake area over into eastern Tennessee, and you can find that on his Facebook page, Ricky Matthews WCYB. He and Chris Michaels took a drone out and snapped some photos and some videos, so you can see all the damage on his Facebook page. If you just kind of scroll down a little bit throughout his page, you'll be able to see that. So let's toss it down to Charleston, South Carolina. Shay, I know you guys have had some storms down there, but I don't know if they've been as bad as we've had up here in the Piedmont area.
No, not quite as bad. We did have we had a bout of storms a couple days ago that took down some trees, and there was a reported funnel cloud, but I think that just ended up being some scud, some low-level scud. But definitely seeing some straight line winds, a couple of microbursts here and there, taking down some large trees, causing some power outages around the area today. I tell you, the real talk is just heat, this persistent heat dome. And it's not quite a triple high heat dome or anything like that over the southeast, because our sea breezes are at least keeping the coastline cool, but we're just seeing this oppressive heat every single day. You asked earlier before the show what the high temperature was. We topped out at 99 degrees at 2:56 p.m. So we almost hit 100 before thunderstorms started popping inland along the sea breeze front, and we saw some urban heat island effect storming and some small hail in North Charleston, and that also is inland as well. But along the coastline, the sea breezes are working pretty good. We still have our very large Bermuda Azores high working in along the coastline from the ocean, and one little kink from residual trough. This is kind of the area right now when you get these Bermuda highs built in, where fronts come to die, and they do it very slowly, and they seem to do it along the mid-Atlantic and sort of traverse up and down and undulate through the North Carolina and Virginia areas. So they become very problematic for you guys. We get a little bit of the taste down here, but usually what we'll get is some lee side troughing that develops just downstream of some of those ripples in the boundary. And so, yeah, that's just keeping our humidity high. But for now, we're staying kind of windy on the beaches from those sea breezes and hot inland.
And Shay, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I didn't ask you before the show, but water temperatures, ocean temperatures, are they maxing out now? I mean, I'm sure mid-upper 80s possibly in some places.
Yeah, we're sitting right about 85.6, so we're a little lower than you would think. You'd think by now we'd be hitting 88 to 89 degrees, but you know, we're cooler shelf waters. We have a little bit of cool water upwelling going on just from some Ekman transporting, and hydrologically speaking, we're staying okay as far as water temperatures go. When you get down into Florida, though, it's a whole different story. Tampa Bay, I pulled up yesterday, Old Tampa Bay Port registered 94.8 degree water temperatures. So they're sitting right between 92 and 94 degrees for a lot of the Florida coast. It's very, very hot down there. I mean, that's someone I know, he tried to go kiteboarding one day, and he had some issues with the kite and low winds, and then he struggled with it to walk back a long distance, and he got hyperthermia. So not hypothermia, but hyperthermia from these hot waters and this hot air. Together, you can get a heat stroke very easily with that kind of combination. So even if you're at the beaches, that water, it's not very helpful to cool you off unless you get some wind on top of it.
Wow, yeah, that's some warm water. And talking about warm, I know our friend David Reese has been sweating a little bit because the National Weather Service decided that they just wanted their server to go out today, and so he was stressing trying to get all his graphics ready for the 5 p.m. newscast. So David, please tell us that everything made it off without any problems.
Yeah, not too many issues up here in Charlottesville, Virginia. Yeah, we did have some data issues, restarted a computer here and there, had to restart a few programs, but everything slowly started to come back around 3:45, 4 o'clock, so we actually had a full suite of things by 5 o'clock when we go on air, so that was good. We also had some hefty showers and thunderstorms roll through around 4:30, 5 o'clock in our southern half of the county here in Albemarle County in central Virginia. We had one reporting station pick up 1.47 inches of rain in about 45 minutes. That's a lot of rain in a short amount of time. There was a little bit of localized flooding down there. Otherwise, here in the city of Charlottesville, we picked up anywhere from 0.2 to 0.4 of an inch of rain, depending on where you were. Temperatures topped out in the low 90s, about 90, 91, depending on where you were. Today, we're looking at temperatures a little bit warmer, as 850s, warm a little bit more for your Thursday. I think the bigger story, though, nationwide is going to be the heat that we're talking about for next week. Some of the model data is actually rather impressive, if you ask me. 600 decameter reg, that's putting out some serious heat. But other than that, it's pretty steady here in the city of Charlottesville and surrounding areas. Got to fill in at WDBJ on Sunday. That was a pleasure. Their studio is probably 4 times the size. Of course, that's what happens when you go up 130 markets in TV. Things get a little bit bigger and better. But loving my time up here in Charlottesville, and looking forward to a little bit more in the way of heat and humidity for tomorrow and Friday.
Yeah, and I was gonna say with Roanoke, they saw some flooding yesterday. Actually, last week, Dean Davidson, our guest, lives in the Roanoke area, and he sent me a photo last night of the streets of downtown Roanoke basically underwater.
Yeah, I saw some of that. Of course, I was teasing everybody on air because it was actually nice and dry and sunny, low humidity on Sunday. It's just like, yeah, they're either made the weather so that they were able to enjoy a nice sunny day, or I brought the sunshine from Charlottesville, whichever one you guys wanted to listen to. And some people on Twitter from Roanoke were like, he's right, he was the one that brought sunshine, bring him back. So it was funny. But yeah, some of the pictures yesterday out of Roanoke, 2 inches in about an hour, that'll do it in a cityscape like that.
Wow. Yeah, they say beware the 600 DM. So that's, well, I tell you that some of the models I've been looking at are kind of intimidating there. Yeah, we did some stats here in Charleston, Scotty. We did stats for 90 degrees plus temperatures, and we're at about 20 days, and 95 degree plus we're at 10 days. So we're moving in on those records. The last time we had this kind of a heat streak was in 1993, and I did a little bit of correlation with neutral, INSO neutral in the tropics, but I'm not sure how much that's really going to pan out. I'm still looking at it all. But yeah, heat is the key word for the Southeast, I'll tell you what.
That's the truth, and I'm a big fan of it, so it doesn't bother me. But that kind of brings me into our guest tonight. We have Dakota and Tyler with us, and Dakota is out in the Colorado area, and Tyler up in Connecticut. So let's toss it up to the East Coast up in Connecticut and bring in Tyler, who is joining us tonight with the Weather Junkies. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. We're happy to be here, and I suppose you picked me first because the internet is spotty out there in Colorado? No, that's not the reason. Dakota wanted to conserve some bandwidth. I guess he's on a hotspot. But yeah, I guess I'll start out by telling you a little bit about our podcast. We started about 6 months ago now. We're usually on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. We were originally Wednesday night, and I think we probably switched because you guys are on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And basically the podcast was born out of Dakota's longing to discuss weather with someone. As a grad student in Colorado, he had less interactivity than he did when he was an undergrad. So he reached out to me. We were friends at Penn State. We started the podcast, and here we are. We've only had one planned week off, and that was planned 30 minutes before the show. But we tend to plan our podcasts out as much as possible, but I tend to have less preparation than Dakota does, and I think that may help the show in some instances. Usually we start out with talking about the current weather, then we have a Twitter segment, and then we go into the main topic. And we put our podcasts on a whole bunch of different platforms, as I'm sure you guys do. How many people do you have on your biggest night when everyone joins in?
Oh, let's see.
Not right now, there are millions.
Contributors.
Oh, contributors.
Panelists. Let's see. We'd add, 2 onto what we have right now? Ricky and Joey. And Kit, 3.
Yeah, we're down 3 tonight. But I can't think of the last time we had everybody.
Yeah, I can't either. So that would be 7 of us?
That's a lot. It's a lot to get together at one time and join the live show. I know sometimes we have to do things pre-recorded, and it's only two of us.
Yeah,
Kudos
we're
to you guys, only two of you, and doing it every week, because if one of you has to skip a week, then it's on the other person. So I think that's pretty impressive.
We haven't had that happen yet, but it might be coming in August.
Did you hear that, Dakota?
What's this?
Well, let's bring in Dakota. And Dakota, how about you introduce yourself and maybe your background, and we'll continue talking about how you guys got started.
Yeah, thanks guys for having us. Really appreciate it. I'm a grad student at Colorado State in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I do some climate modeling, some carbon cycle modeling. That's what's been my grad work so far. This will be my third year, and so that's what I'm doing out here. And I really wanted the podcast to kind of be two different views of it, and I think that's what it's been, because Tyler and I have different opinions every now and then on certain subjects just because of our backgrounds. You know, he's broadcast, he's on air. I'm in a dark office behind the computer, and so yeah, that was part of it. And then the other part was I just wanted to talk about the weather with someone, because there are a lot less weather weenies in grad school than undergrad, especially coming from Penn State, where almost everyone is a weenie. And here at Colorado State, there's a group of people who are really into the weather, but a lot of people come from non-meteorology backgrounds like chemistry or math or physics, and didn't really have that childhood, oh, I love the clouds, I love the weather type of thing. So those were two of the main reasons I wanted to start the podcast with Tyler, and Tyler was just a good friend, so it seemed perfect to have him.
Very cool. Well, something I want to ask both of you guys as us fellow podcasters, what's been some of the difficult moments in your show? Is it like finding content, finding guests? Have you found any difficulties in the 6 months that you guys have been doing this?
Every now and then we do have some guest problems, mainly just because I don't have the time. Tyler and I don't have the time. Usually it's me who are booking people, so if I don't have time that month or that week or whatever, we'll have to grab a friend or something real quick to come on the show. I think our biggest problem we've basically overcome at this point has been the technical aspect. I would mess up every now and then and accidentally play the wrong music in the beginning or stuff like that. Tyler can attest to that. He teases me every week about it.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot cleaner in the last couple of months. In the beginning, there was a glitch every week, and the other thing is Google Hangouts is not always flawless. Nothing Google makes is ever always flawless. If I may get that jab in there.
And we're shut down. Oh.
So we're dealing with that, but a lot of the guests don't always know how to work Google Hangouts or troubleshoot, and when you're not next to them, it's very difficult to solve the problem in sometimes 5 minutes or less. So sometimes we've taken to FaceTime audio, or worse than that, a generic phone call, which is lower quality, to save the show. But so I think one thing that we've gotten better at is making sure the instructions are clear and that the person knows how to work a laptop and knows how to log into Google Hangouts and how to make it work. But yeah, it's gotten a lot cleaner in the last 6 months, and we continue to make it better. I think, what else did I want to say? Yeah, so it was the music. The thing with the music is I still don't know how Dakota does it, but he plays the music and he can't hear it on his end. So that's one of the challenges, because you have to trust that you're doing the right thing when you might not be. And starting the show a little bit early. One time we had to start over because there was stuff that got transmitted live that should not have been transmitted live. A little bit of a early start, but other than that, it's worked out very well. Part of our reason we chose Google Hangouts is because we used it when we were in school for the Campus Weather Service live broadcast team, and we actually made it look like a high-quality show through essentially YouTube, and you would never know it because we would hide the pictures on the bottom, whatever you call that. We would hide those pictures, and then we actually pumped in like a real studio switcher in chroma keys. So it was quite a nice production. So we got the idea from that, and that's how we turned into a podcast using the same thing. But we don't do video. We don't do video. You guys do video. Other people do video. We wanted to focus on the audio quality, so that's why you don't ever see us on camera.
I was going to ask you about that, and do you find that most people play you back in a audio format on a podcast as opposed to on YouTube?
I play it back on YouTube just because I find it easy.
So I think the majority of our views, and by majority I mean like 90 or 80% of it is just audio, like on iTunes or Stitcher or something.
Sometimes I think people at home probably wish they couldn't see our ugly mugs, so they would probably wish we did just audio. But then, of course, they could always download the podcast then.
Yeah, but I think they want to see Joey, so that's why we do the video.
We're holding Joey for sweeps. That's why he's not on tonight.
Do you guys have a website?
Coming soon.
Yeah.
That's our response as well.
I've got one in draft I can show you.
Hey, us too.
So James is our tech guy. He's getting the website up. We're looking at maybe doing some music and kind of stuff like you guys are. So, but James that's his alleyway. He loves that stuff. So we've tossed it off to him.
And one of the things I've been looking at for us is trying to utilize our social media channels more around the clock than just on Wednesday to provide continuous weather coverage, especially for the Carolinas, since we kind of have a theming there of a region. And one of the things I've been looking at is, of course, the National Weather Service has their @NWS Severe T-Storm account that they tweet out the thunderstorm warnings for across the country, and I'm looking at that, trying to see if there's something we could use that for, either on our site or on social media. But I know before the show we were talking about how that account has recently changed formats and has changed not only the look and feel of their graphic, but also the coloring. I'm actually going to go ahead and pop it up on the screen right now for folks who maybe haven't looked at this yet. But this is the National Weather Service's official severe thunderstorm warning account. This is a severe thunderstorm warning they tweeted out just a few minutes ago for Indiana, and you'll notice that the graphic itself is fairly clean, but it's in red. And I know at least Dakota was talking before the show about their choice of using red, which is traditionally a color that is used for severe thunderstorm warnings, where just a week ago that graphic would have looked like this with the side-by-side of the radar and the polygon, although I never noticed it, and I'm noticing it now. It was in blue. Is that kind of a topic? I know it's an ongoing topic about color scheming and keeping everything transparent that you guys have brought up on your show, and just curious to see where you guys stand on that. I guess we'll start with Dakota, since I know we were talking about it before the show.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it briefly. We had, I can't remember his name, but we had a guest on from the National Weather Service who talked all about HazSimp, and I know you guys had the same thing, I think, back in April. And we talked about colors briefly, but this new thing, I've been too loud about it already on Twitter, talking with people, but I'm going to continue to be loud because it just blows my mind that they introduced a new color for the warning when they already have a red for tornado warnings, and now flash flood, tornado, and severe thunderstorm warnings are all the same color. I know it's probably not the biggest deal and the biggest problem that the National Weather Service is dealing with right now, but it seems to me a pretty simple concept to keep all the colors the same across multiple platforms. So that's kind of my mini rant about it. I'm curious how you guys feel about it as well.
Well, I know we've brought it up before on the show, and I know I previously, in my previous life in a TV newsroom, we had talked about it when we were redoing our graphics system, because, of course, as a broadcast meteorologist, you're making the graphics, and you got to hopefully try to match them up, at least in my opinion. And I do think it helps uniformly. I'm not sure if the public notices as much as the rest of us do, but I think those who are particularly weather aware certainly do notice it. And my personal vote for what the Twitter graphics should look like is actually probably something in line with what our local office, Greenville Spartanburg, is doing. I think maybe on their own, or I don't know if this is an alternate, but I've noticed they've been using this guy, which shows you the polygon, the radar, although low quality, for severe thunderstorms warnings. I thought that was pretty nice looking too.
It's interesting that they use such low quality radar. But anyways, back to the main point. I remember seeing those graphics with the fancy icons at local offices in the central part of the country before they went on the official Twitter account. You probably saw them, and I really liked them. I loved the hail and like the fancy white icons that matched the white text, and it looked like it was designed nice. And now apparently they're using it on the national feed, and I'm of the opinion of you guys that it should be the same color table that they use on everything else. I don't know if the public notices, though. Like in this instance, when it says severe thunderstorm warning, I don't know if they notice, but I absolutely think it should be the right color. I think it should be consistent. I'm all for consistency, but sometimes I wonder how much they notice.
Yeah, and here's something that I've been thinking, and I saw some people talking on it about Twitter yesterday, that we always say that take severe thunderstorm warning seriously. They can do just as much damage as low-end tornadoes. They had that instance just a couple of days ago in North Carolina that the guys were talking about earlier, and that's why Brad is going to be on in early August. I mean, if you ask my wife if what that means, she's like, that means bad weather. Technically, she's not wrong. I mean, it's just one of those things that you just kind of have to just kind of like literally disconnect yourself, disconnect the meteorologist in you, and go over into the general public and ask them, and they'll be like, oh, that's probably bad weather. Red means bad. So, I mean, at first I was just like, what the bleep are they doing? But the more I've thought about it and the more I've been trying to like think not like a meteorologist, but as somebody who doesn't really know anything about weather. They know like what a thunderstorm is, they know what rain is, but that's about it. Between straight line, the difference between scud and tornadoes. So, I mean, I think it just helps get the point across that, yeah, there's bad weather coming, but as far as just like the meteorologists, which everybody here on this panel is or aspires to be or has a very weather weenie thing in them, it's just one of those things. It's just like, okay, it's annoying, and it should be blue or magenta or whatever the color is on National Weather Service's website. I mean, I do think the color should be uniform across everything, at least within the National Weather Service itself. I think that's huge. I mean, you have watches and warnings on the National Weather Service website, and then you have watches and warnings, different colors on the SPC, but that's a whole different topic. But I think the biggest thing is red means bad to a lot of people, so if it helps them become a little bit more weather aware, I think that might help in the longer run, but it just happened, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see how things play out here over the next couple of months.
My takeaway from what David just said is he thinks my lower third should say weather weenie.
Yes, it should. Sorry, I couldn't think of another word right there on the enthusiast. There we go. Weather enthusiast. I'm just used to saying.
I'm going to go ahead and change my graphic to weather weenie. Wes Scotty gets the next question ready.
Well, David mentioned SPC, and I didn't have this on my list of questions, but it kind of sparked a thought in my head. What do you guys think of the new SPC? I guess it's not technically new. It's been around for about a year and a half now, but the different categories now that the SPC is using. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think they're more clear for people to understand, or do you think they're as confusing as well they were?
Well, I kind of have a cold take. I'm pretty ambivalent towards it. I'm just, whatever. I think it helps it really helps the chaser community and weather enthusiasts between slight and now we have enhanced. I do like the marginal. I think the marginal is a good idea. Maybe not the best word, but overall I think it's fine. I don't think it really changed everything, but I also don't think it really hindered them or added fog to the communication.
And Tyler?
I initially wasn't too thrilled with it. I mean, I don't really care, but I do know that I had a lot of respect for that slight risk when it came out in New England. I knew that that was going to be a bad day. Slight risk meant bad day in New England. And now it's more muddled. But I think what I do have more confidence in is that the public doesn't look at the SPC outlooks. They don't have a clue what the SPC is putting out, and they probably don't understand it. I mean, they don't even know what the difference between a watch and a warning is, never mind an SPC outlook. So
Valid.
I hope your viewers aren't listening, Tyler.
I think they put out great forecasts, and it's very valuable for us, but I don't think they are putting out something for the end user. I think it's more of just guidance for meteorologists. I just don't see how the public is typing in SPC and, no.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And one of the things I think I've learned to like about this new scale, because I wasn't a fan at first, I was a little confused, but I like now that there are kind of 5 of them, I like the shortcut of just saying, on a scale of 0 to 5. I think that probably translates almost easier than the words.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's how I present it. It's I'll put slight, but then I'll put level 2 out of 5 or enhanced level 3 out of 5, and I think that that kind of gives the message a little bit more clear than what does a enhanced or marginal or slight mean. So we've had our own little deal with that with the SPC. It seems like in the Southeast, I don't know. What would you say, James and David and Shay, you guys? We've had that here in the Carolinas and Virginia. We've had enhanced days and we've had nothing, and then we've had marginal days and we've had severe outbreaks. So I think, in my opinion, the SPC is really well in the Midwest and during the typical severe weather seasons like your springs and your falls. But once it comes to summertime, sometimes it's kind of makes you scratch your head, because once everything's done, you're like, we was under an enhanced risk and we got nothing. Last week, we were under a marginal risk, and one of my consultant jobs is to work with local emergency management offices, and we had 69 wind reports throughout 2 counties on a marginal risk day. So,
was that the day you had the Boone video?
No, that was last Tuesday. Tuesday.
Okay, because the Boone video you talked about at the top of the show, and which I've actually
Friday.
have queued up to show again, this was a enhanced day you had in the mountains?
Yes, it was enhanced, I believe.
On Friday?
I believe Friday was, yeah. It was an enhanced day, yeah, because I remember typing out a thing to our EMs about that. So.
But I think that's one of the things we've noticed here, and I'm not sure what it's like up in your neck of the woods, Tyler, but we get into these situations, especially in the Charlotte area, where there's kind of a disconnect, and I'm not trying to sound mean to the National Weather Service, but like in the Charlotte area, there are 4 offices that cover different parts of the suburb area, so there's sometimes a really hard lag with the handoff of a warning, where you'll actually have chunks of a county that are missing it, even though everywhere else around it is connected. Do you guys have that problem with your neck of the woods?
We have a major problem with disconnect between the National Weather Service offices. I can't think of any prominent examples with the warnings recently, but the problem is horrendous when it comes to everything. Sometimes, so we're Connecticut. We have a shoreline from west to east in the south, and then we have hills in the northwest, a valley in the middle, and some more hills in the northeast. So Albany covers the northwest, New York City covers the 4 shoreline counties, and Boston covers the northeast corner. And even, all the time, winter storms, nothing matches up. I remember one day, about a month or 2 ago, we had like some, low-level, who cares, dense fog advisory. And the shoreline, it was maybe like just coastal Connecticut, and then the northwest hills, and in between there was nothing. I mean, it was like polka dots. You couldn't even use it because it wouldn't make any sense. You might as well just draw a gray polygon in so that it looks like it's, issue your own dense fog advisory, because otherwise it's not going to make sense. So that happens all the time. And, a lot of times we'll chuckle and we'll look at who's working. We'll say, oh, we're going to forget this. So sometimes there'll be a warning, yes, and it either goes the wrong way or it doesn't get continued, or all sorts of stuff go on. It's tough. We don't have one office in Connecticut. We're covered by 3 that are out of state. So a lot of times I think we're an afterthought. Because obviously New York City is focused on New York, and they do cover the whole southern half of Connecticut. So yes, we have major problems.
And to cause further confusion, that New York City quote-unquote entitled office is all the way out on Long Island. Popping up on the screen here, it is an example of what we're talking about in the Charlotte area, and this was actually, I have the date right here. It's July the 5th, and you're looking at a storm that was moving south and east. The warning is issued by GSP, but that one little area that kind of protrudes up is a part of Lancaster County, which is controlled by Columbia, South Carolina. And it took a moment to get that warning into that little area that is surrounded on 3 sides by polygons. So hopefully that is something sooner rather than later the National Weather Service can get that bug out. I know Dakota, I think, is reconnecting. I was going to ask him the same question, kind of to see how the offices kind of correspond out in his neck of the woods, especially since I think his battery might be dying in a moment.
I think I'm back here. Yeah, so I haven't noticed that big of an issue out here. It seems like a lot of days are just slight risk, marginal risk days out here. And the Boulder office actually does a pretty good job with sending out that message via social media and on weather.gov. Yeah, so I honestly I don't think there is that many issues. Especially it's only one office that does northern Colorado. I don't pay attention too much to down south. I think as the National Weather Service is Pueblo down there for Colorado Springs. Yeah, so overall I think they do a pretty good job. And right now actually it's fire season, and so that's the big issue they're dealing with out here, getting out the message to put out fires and not light the fires, and yeah, so that's my 2 cents there.
Well, something I want to bring you guys, something that's kind of connected us all together throughout the weather enterprise over the past couple of years is social media. And with Tyler, with you being in broadcast, and I'm sorry, Tyler, you're in broadcast, Dakota, you're more of the looking into your studies. How is social media, do you guys think, how is it affecting the weather enterprise, and what do you think the long-term goals for social media and weather enterprise is going to be? Do you think we're going to transition more to social media, or do you think broadcast is still the way to go? What is y'all's thoughts on that?
I'll let you take that one, Tyler, first.
I think video is absolutely the way to go when it comes to complex weather scenarios. No tweet or Facebook post is going to take someone through a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning. So in some way or another, on some platform or another, there's going to have to be video. Video is what people will tune into when the weather turns bad. We have not had a hurricane hit in more than a decade, so we've been a little bit dormant in that department. I mean, you could consider Sandy and Irene, but the days of 2005 have not happened in a long time, so we haven't seen how things would happen in this new age. But I think overall, my outlook probably on effective weather communication may be a little bit negative, because you have a lot of young people that are on social media, but you don't see every tweet and you don't see every Facebook post. And you're not always on social media, and the message is not as clear or pristine as it used to be. You used to be able to, everyone would watch your 2.5-minute or 3-minute weathercast, and they would get the information they needed. Now it's very fragmented, and that's part of the negative thought that I have, because it's very tough to have the same oomph or punch that you used to have in a critical situation. But there are positives to social media. A lot of negatives, but there are positives. But video, absolutely. Video is still going to be around. It may not be going through a broadcast tower. It may be on a website or somewhere else, but the video is critical. I think the video is important. Someone actually explaining what's going on in the worst situation. Social media, text won't cut it in those situations.
So from, I guess, a different perspective, I think what the internet and what social media has done is given all this information, whether it's via data or pictures or videos or just text, and it's kind of, I think it's rejuvenated a interest in weather, and kind of pushed those interests for people who might have not had a career or had a passion for the weather. And there's a lot of downsides, like Tyler said. There's a lot of non-credible weather sources nowadays. I think that's a problem we're gonna slowly fix as a community. But I think overall, what social media has done is made people more interested in the weather, and I think overall that makes people more aware of their surroundings when it comes to the atmosphere and natural disasters. Another kind of quick point here. The one thing I really like social media for, especially Twitter, is reports of damage or pictures of tornadoes or hail or whatever. I know the Boulder out here, National Weather Service at Boulder, whenever I go out chasing and I see something that's severe, I just tweet at them. I tweet it, and then later it pops up in the SPC report. So I think that's pretty cool that they go ahead and put it in their official report and everything, just with a simple tweet of a picture or something.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with misinformation in social media. I think recently we just saw a lot of things unfold in the past 10 days with the two bloggers. I think Robert Scribbler and Paul Beckwith. They tweeted about Northern Hemisphere jet stream crossing the equator, and it's a global emergency of magnitude, and it was like, wow, it really got around before people started capping it and saying it was not true. It was not going to be an emergency. That it's a normal thing that happens, so that's sort of one of the dangers of social media is getting that kind of a report, not just on a micro scale for your local area, but also we're seeing reports come out for global events that are further. I mean, global warming would be one conduit there, but it's definitely something to be careful with when you're reading all the information that's out there.
And with Facebook Live and Periscope, how do you guys think that's going to transform into the weather industry? I know a lot of people around here are using it for severe weather. Maybe they're not breaking into TV coverage, but the meteorologists, broadcast meteorologists, are giving 5-minute updates on their social media outlets. You have some storm chasers out there live streaming their chase. So what do you guys think of Periscope and Facebook Live and what it may do as it continues to grow in the enterprise?
I love Facebook Live, particularly the higher quality version when you actually pump in a high quality feed as opposed to using your phone. I've done that before, but I think we all had a reality check a few weeks ago when Facebook announced that they were changing the algorithm for the news feed to focus on friends and family. And that is when you don't control the distribution platform like we have for 60, 70, 80 years, you are taking a major risk. Facebook could care less about us and about news. They really could care less. And they change things on the fly. So while Facebook Live may be getting great engagement now, tomorrow it could change and go way down. So I think it's a great piece of technology. A lot of people tune in. It gets great engagement, but it may not always be that way. And you have to use extreme caution when the distribution platform is in someone else's hands and you're not making a ton of money or you're not making any money on it. So a lot of red flags, but it's a great start. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, but as strictly a consumer of that, because I don't really do Periscope or Facebook Live, I love seeing Tyler or some of my other friends. I love seeing the behind the scenes of their broadcasts, because it makes me feel like I'm there and I'm kind of part of their forecast, and it kind of engages me a bit more. That may be because I like weather, but yeah, that's my 2 cents there.
I know James has some questions more about your show. I just have one more question. I want to ask you guys is who are some people you look to in the weather enterprise, the industry? Who are some role models or people that you look at and you're like, I really like how they conduct themselves or how they give out information and things like that.
First and foremost, it's my advisor who isn't really in the weather community, but he's more of a climate science guy, Scott Denning, at Colorado State. Someone that I've always looked up to is meteorologist Mike Mogul. He does a lot of weather education stuff. If you're ever at AMS, he's always around at WeatherFest, and he's usually has a couple presentations. And then finally, Louis Uccellini, head of the National Weather Service. I've met him a few times, and it's always a great interaction. And I only have 5-10 minute conversations with him, but he remembers me every time and remembers what we talked about last. And it blows my mind because he's talked to hundreds of people either at AMS or something else. So those are the three people that I look up to in the weather community.
For me, there's two local people probably none of you know of, but I would say one is Brad Field. I interned for him twice here in Connecticut, and now I work with him. He's so much more than weather, and I love the fact that he takes time to teach you about life and things that are more important than just getting the forecast right and doing the weather. And the other person I would say is Garrett Argianis. When I was 12 years old, I started volunteering at the Little League Regionals, the final step before the World Series here in Bristol, and he was an announcer. And when I found out that he was also a meteorologist, I would always try to ask him a question each summer when I didn't really know him, and it was like meeting a celebrity. And I was so thankful that I could talk to him. And now we worked together for a short time. Now he works somewhere else, but we still volunteer together at the regionals coming up here. So it's kind of neat to have looked up to him, and now I actually made it, and I do the weather on TV. I succeeded in getting my degree. He always warned me, if you didn't like math, you didn't like science, don't go into it. So it's kind of interesting to see that whole thing play out. So those are the two people I really look up to. They're in Connecticut, locally. I'm surprised you didn't say Paul Cosin, Dakota.
Oh man, I forgot him. I love Paul Cosin. Oh my gosh, you know what, Tyler? You're right. He's probably my number one. I haven't known him for that long, but I mean, who didn't watch Paul Cosin on the Weather Channel do the winter weather update? I live for that segment of the Weather Channel.
With the little TV sitting next to him and the pen.
Oh my God, it was so good. Even when he got it completely wrong, it was still so good just because his voice, that raspy, awesome voice. And I had the pleasure of meeting him at AMS, and then we had the pleasure of having him on one of our shows. Great guy, funny guy. Yeah, thanks, Tyler, for that. I completely forgot.
Well, that was a good segue, Tyler, into talking about something when you were younger. That's one question we like to ask our guests is, what got you into weather? Was there some event that happened when you were really young that got you hooked on it, that got you to be passionate about it? Tell us a little bit about that.
I would say for me it was definitely snowstorms, and I would say to this day snowstorms are my favorite thing to forecast, probably because everyone is interested in it. Everyone gets up in arms about how much is going to fall, whereas you could have a major severe weather event and no one could care. They only care when their house gets knocked down. I like the build-up to snowstorms, and when everyone's attention is on you and what you're thinking. That's how I got into weather, the snowstorm aspect. I would make school closing predictions, and they were pretty accurate. They were accurate enough that the following started to get bigger starting in middle school. And I actually, in 7th grade, I would print out something in Word. I designed my own icons in Microsoft Paint, and I put them together in the Word document, and I would print it out and hang it up in school. And one of those sheets from 7th grade, I had everyone in the class sign, and I still have it in a Ziploc bag upstairs. So if I ever do a school visit here in town, where I'm from, grew up, I bring that with me sometimes because I show it to the kids, and this is where I was. I was in 7th grade here in town, and now I'm a meteorologist. So it's pretty cool.
That's great. How about you, Dakota? What got you involved?
So I don't think Tyler and I have talked about this with each other, but it's pretty much the exact same thing. I grew up in Maryland my whole life, and you don't get snow that often. It's not a snow haven, but when you do get some big thumpers down there. This winter is a perfect example. And yeah, I love the snow, love the school closing aspect, love everyone had to shut down, this town had to shut down. And I did the same thing that Tyler did. I did school predictions. And I had a website and everything, and everyone was always emailing me and texting me and asking me in the hallway what's going to happen. Yeah, so I'd say that's probably it. I spent a lot of time outside, and I love looking at the clouds, and I think that was probably a big part of it too. I'm a cloud junkie. But I wanted to touch on Tyler's point here. So this is kind of weird, but Tyler gave me a business card of his that he made, I have no idea when, probably in high school, maybe middle school. And I keep it in my wallet just because I put it there once and it never left. I think I've had it in my wallet for the past 5 years now. And on it has a picture of Tyler. I wish I could show it right now. And it says Chief Junior Meteorologist Tyler Jankowski. And it has his email and his phone number, and let's see, on the back it says Precision Plus First Alert Weather. Tyler, you were a big shot back then.
Yeah, junior varsity pro meteorologist.
That was back in the days of forums. It's interesting how things have changed. That I was on the AccuWeather forums because I didn't know any different, and nowadays social media has killed a lot of forums. Obviously not the big dogs like whatever Eastern U.S. weather became American weather. Those are still very powerful and they're a force, but it's amazing how things started. Like I know I have some friends in the Boston area that started out on like Yahoo Messenger and AOL chat or whatever, and how that has morphed into what we have now, which is social media.
Yeah, putting like weather bulletins in your aim away message.
Yeah.
Was that just me?
Don't
tell
me. No, I did that.
Okay.
I remember the AOL chat rooms, and it was really cool when all of a sudden you could send pictures. Just wow. It took forever to load because you're on dial-up.
Doing the first video chat with somebody and it was like an inch big on your screen.
Yeah. You're like, hold on, still loading. All right, and you'll see it.
Tyler, I'm glad you mentioned snowstorms because I know that's something I can relate to growing up on Long Island. Those big snowstorms, and Peter outside of Philly, I bet you has the same experience. And man, do I miss snowstorms! And my wife's from the South, and she got to experience one of those snowstorms 2 Christmases ago. Last Christmas, we got stuck in New York, and it was fantastic. But as we come up to the 9 o'clock hour, I wanted to ask you guys, bringing the focus back onto your show. Who is it that you hope to reach with your show? What is it that you hope the impact will be in the weather community, the science community, whatever it is? What do you hope to accomplish? And I guess we'll start with Tyler.
Initially, we didn't know what our target audience was, and in the last couple of weeks, probably the last month, we've decided that it is someone who knows what Doppler radar is and has an interest in weather, but they probably don't know what 500 millibars is. So it's someone who has an interest in weather, absolutely, but they are not in the know when it comes to the specifics of how we do things in the actual meteorology. So we've really been trying to focus on setting the stage and not letting a guest go off on a tangent in something that maybe we don't even understand. That drives me nuts. Because if we're going to build an audience, we want more than one listener. We want more than that one, perhaps, PhD candidate that's listening. We want more than one. And if we're going to do that, we want to have it be something that a decent number of people can understand. Not dumb or stupid, but in the middle of the road. That's generally what we aim for. And so we've narrowed that down. And for the goal, maybe it's to talk about something that isn't being talked about enough or people are afraid to talk about, just being honest and real. Maybe Dakota can add on to that.
Yeah, we've had this discussion a few times kind of behind the scenes just because we want to know what our focus is and our audience. And yeah, Tyler's right. It's someone who has an interest and can listen to us talk about a radar image or something and follow along. I also think it changes a little bit every episode because sometimes we do a climate science episode and that attracts different viewers. Other times we'll have someone who just published a research article and we bring them on, and sometimes that gets a little heavy. And then other times we'll have I don't know, a broadcast meteorologist come on and just talk about stories on air, and that's a pretty easy listen. One thing I've been doing, selfless plug here, I've been working on a different project called Weather Ready or Not, and basically it tells a story on a certain weather event, and it's through the eyes of the public, people who are impacted by that weather event, and that to me is kind of more general public because you don't really have to have an interest. It tells kind of an overarching story, and so that's why that was part of the reason I started that, because I wanted something that the general public would enjoy and follow along with.
Very cool, and I know we like to round out our show by giving our guests the opportunity to, again, share their social media handles and way to get in contact with you, but also, in your case, I think promote your show. But I'll hold off 1 second before I toss that baton back to you guys to ask Scotty and the rest of the panelists if they have any other questions first before we do that.
I was going to say Grant Gilmore was listening to our show because he just posted about the inconsistency in colors on his Twitter page, so I thought that was interesting. But who are you guys' like top 5 list? Who are like 5 people in the enterprise or 3 people that you like? I really want to get them on the show to talk about their passion or a specific topic.
I can name 2 or 3, and then Dakota can pick up the list. One would be John Neese. He is a professor at Penn State, formerly on the Weather Channel. Love his way of thinking and demand for accuracy, even in how you word things. Sometimes it's too much, but I want to have him on the show. Who else? Probably one of the people I mentioned, either Brad or Garrett, who I looked up to growing up, so that's 2, and then maybe the third would be maybe not a specific name, but someone who's not a meteorologist, but someone who's like well known, that's external, someone just to get feel for how they view us and what they think. So that's 3-ish. Dakota, you can add a few.
I'm surprised you didn't put Brian Williams in there.
Well, it's be tough.
Yeah, but Tyler's right. John Neese is definitely on my list. He's someone I look up to as well. We actually had 2 people on who were like, to me, I was just like way enthusiastic that we had, and that was Paul Cosin and Bob Bryan. Those were 2 really awesome episodes and kind of like a pipe dream episode. One person I already mentioned, Louis Uccellini. That would be amazing to have him on. And then, maybe someone that kind of like Tyler that's not exactly weather-centric. Maybe someone within the NSF or something like that. Actually, you know what? Wakimoto would be amazing. He basically wrote the book on severe weather. So yeah, but Dr. Wakimoto would be pretty awesome.
Also, perhaps Fred Gadomski, the legendary creator of the Penn State UR.
Oh my gosh!
You don't know who Fred is.
Tyler, you gave me an idea for a show. You said bringing on somebody who's kind of external, and I was thinking we should bring on members of the public and have them weigh in on whether or not colors matter.
That's crossed my mind before. I feel like it could go off the rails easily, though.
That's a good point.
Maybe you found your name right there, off the rails.
Well, James, I have one more question for them, and it really comes down to, you kind of mentioned earlier about snowstorms, but what is your favorite type of weather to follow? If things are pretty quiet in your neck of the woods and you're just looking for something interesting around the globe, what do you like to? What's your first go-to? And we'll start with you, Dakota.
I love. I'm a big cloud guy, so I love visible satellite imagery. So a lot of times I'll just look at some VIIRS imagery or something on Aqua or Terra on the Modis satellite. And a lot of times I love looking for big, sorry, what am I looking for? Big cyclones, not usually tropical because those are a little tougher to find, but big mid-latitude cyclones somewhere across the United States or other places, like I don't know. There's a lot down south in the Antarctic Current. Over the Antarctic Current, there's usually something down there you can find.
Cool. Are you part of the Cloud Appreciation Society?
I don't think I am, actually. I've been outed.
So I'm a big cloud fan myself, so I think they just, last year or the year before, maybe it was last year, finally got undulatus asperatus clouding added, first time since, 1956 or something, that they actually had a new cloud added to the entire list. So I'm a big cloud fan myself. But how about I'm sorry, kind of lost my place here. Sorry, I'm crashing here.
I think you're really crashing. I saw like some lights go out.
My computer's doing all kinds of glitching right now. So back to you, James, if you can hear me.
Oh, okay. Maybe Google heard us talking bad about them, and then they're seeking revenge.
Like I said.
I think that's what's happening. So yeah, we're a few minutes past 9 o'clock now. So I'll start with Dakota and giving him an opportunity to share his social media platform so that anybody who wants to reach out to him can do so, and we'll let Tyler share his as well, and then we'll let you guys again remind us what is your show, when is your show, and we'll let you get that plug in one more time.
Thank you. Yeah, so our show is called The Weather Junkies, and very similar to this show, except it's only two of us, and we always have a guest on to keep it interesting. Show's on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We host it live, just like you guys on YouTube, but you can listen to it on any sort of podcast platform like iTunes, Stitcher. You can also listen to it on SoundCloud. And then as far as social media goes, if you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow us at the WX Junkies. We're also on Facebook. And personally, you can follow me at WeatherDac. And I think that's it. Tyler.
Yep. My Twitter handle is on the screen. It's at Tyler Jankowski. I love Twitter. It's my favorite platform to connect with other people on. So if you have any questions or you're interested in being on the show, send a DM or a tweet, and I'll get back to you. And I'm also on Vine, Instagram, and Facebook with just my name, and you'll find me. That's all I have.
Tyler, Twitter is starting to get into the live streaming game, and you mentioned earlier about how live video is key for severe weather coverage. Are you going to jump on I guess what will be an eventual bandwagon for live streaming video on Twitter, and I'm talking beyond Periscope?
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
They started to partner with folks, with like CBS News and the convention. They did Wimbledon. They're now showing Bloomberg TV natively on Twitter. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's nothing but my own prediction that at some point there will be more of this native video on Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely. The big problem I have with Periscope is you have people watching in like Europe and Africa. I don't care about them. We're talking about the weather in Connecticut. So while you may have a cool question about a cloud, that's not what I'm talking about. Whereas with Facebook Live is a very targeted audience, people that actually care about your forecast are tuning in. So that's why I don't like Periscope. So hopefully if Twitter does something, it's more related to your followers.
I guess we will wait. We will wait and see what's next. But I saw those articles this week, and I'm thinking Twitter is still trying to chase after Facebook.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Scotty, do you have your mic issues resolved? And can you tell us what's coming up in the future weeks on our show? Oh, I don't think he can. All right. Do you know sign language, Scotty? Do you have a whiteboard that you can write on? Next week, we will have a friend of our show, a former professor of mine, Steve Smith, will be back He was on a previous episode of with us and talked about the weather business as it relates to television. But we're going to have him back on to talk about his weather-related stories from his career, covering hurricanes and other big storms. He worked for ABC News. He worked for WXIA in Atlanta for a long time. So he will be on to tell us his tales next Wednesday night at 8. And Scotty is holding up a piece of paper, and I'm going to go ahead and put that up on the screen now for hopefully everyone to read. And then Brad Penovich will be August 3rd. That's 4 weeks away now? And
it's 3.
3 weeks. Brad will be on to talk a little bit about what we've talked about a couple points during the show today, which is understanding the difference between tornado and straight line winds and being more weather aware as a consumer when we're reading these bulletins and understanding exactly what a severe thunderstorm warning could do. And I think a lot of that came out of a conversation Scotty had with him just after these weather events in the last few days here in the Charlotte area, and I'm sure a preview of that conversation can be seen right now on Brad's Facebook page. He took to Facebook just the other day to kind of walk people through what straight line winds are and how they can be an impact on your life. So I'm sure that will be a large part of our conversation, of course, and we can't have Brad on and not talk about social media. So Scotty, I assume at some point we will quiz him and get to know a little bit more about his thoughts on digital media as well. Again, you can check out the Weather Junkies. You can check out the Carolina Weather Group podcast, and all of our shows are on YouTube. And we thank you for tuning in tonight. And Tyler and Dakota, thank you for coming on and talking about your show. And I assume you have a show tomorrow, so I appreciate you guys. We all do appreciate you adding another show onto your list this week.
Yeah, no problem. I'm actually doing the morning shift tomorrow, so I'm off to bed after this.
I understand.
Don't blame you.
Completely.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for having us on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a good night. We'll see everybody back here next week.